right now, I don't really need a lot of business development by my team, but they do have a ton of client contact, and it's equally important for attorneys in any business. There's two elements. One is bringing in the business. It's probably even more important to retain the business. And that requires the people on your team really treating the clients in a way that the clients are super happy, and they are staying with your company and they're not leaving. So I think it's important as an employer in a fast growth company to pay just as much attention to whether or not an employee can retain clients through excellent service as it is for them to bring in business.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today we look at this concept of empowering brand ambassadors. What I mean by that is you are really asking people to go front and center with your brand. It's not just you that's giving the speeches or on the podcast or going to the conferences. You're asking people to get out from behind the desk and actually be a brand ambassador for the company. We have a very special guest with us today. It is Sheryl Hunter with Hunter Business Law. They are an expert in the world of startups all the way from the beginning to the exit. And Sheryl shares some of the ways that she has engaged this whole concept of empowering brand ambassadors inside her law firm. Now, they were on the Inc. list. They've grown really fast. But what we share with you today will help you understand when you want your employees to be the face of the company, not just you. Now, some people don't want to be the face of the company at all. They want to just serve their clients. But I do believe that a personal brand can really create some empowering moments and connection across the clients that you want. And it doesn't have to be just you. You can empower brand ambassadors, and that's what we talk about inside this episode. Now, your journey of evolving as a leader requires you to challenge yourself and to be supported in that journey. And my job is to do that for you, is to challenge you and support you in a way that helps you be the best leader you can be. If you know that your culture, your leadership can take it to the next level, you want to remove the tension that's inside the organization that causes people to leave early, I want to help you do that. My job is to help you be the best leader you can be. If you want to check out some of the free resources, just go to genehammett.com. If you want to schedule a call with me, go to the top right-hand corner and click on Start Your Journey. I'd love to work with you and help you be the best leader you can be. I've got a lot of options of how we work together. Before that, let's get on the phone. I want to help you understand your problem clearer than you've ever seen it before, and then help you see what solutions are in front of you. All you have to do is go to genehammett.com, start your journey. Now here's Sheryl. Hi, Sheryl. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you.
It's exciting to have you on the podcast.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
Well, I've already let our audience know a little bit about you and what we talk about today, but I want you to give us some context about Hunter Business Law.
Okay, well, Hunter Business Law, we're the entrepreneur's law firm, so that's very intentional. I have a huge passion for working with entrepreneurs and love the diversity of the experiences. So as the entrepreneur's law firm, we work exclusively with growth-focused entrepreneurs and their business enterprises. So that's from startup to exit. And I say individual entrepreneurs as well as business enterprises, because obviously we start with the founder. Oftentimes they're coming to us with an idea, we get them formed, and then they're building an enterprise. So we're now integrating with employees that they're bringing on, investors that they're bringing on, different strategic partners, the contracts that they have going with them. So we get to go on the journey with them. And I'm kind of a shiny object person myself. So this feeds the need to get exposure to a lot of exciting new businesses and concepts and to be constantly learning.
Well, you're in a good place because I think a lot of people listening in here are founder CEOs of fast growth companies.
Exactly.
So you got
that's the kind of one I love. Sometimes it's hard to nail them down on legal.
Yeah.
They're like, do I really have to worry about this? And I'm like, yes, trust me. We don't have to derail your dreams by not doing good contracts and NDAs and protecting you. So let's have this conversation. Yeah.
Sheryl, well, I'm excited to talk to you today because my research in your company, not only were you on a fast growth company, but you personally have showed up on our radar because you have a way you treat employees, the way you treat and empower people. Tell us a little bit about why empowerment is such an important piece to the growth of your business.
Well, two primary reasons. One important piece is that I do not have enough hours in the day to accomplish my own dreams and where I want to take the business. So I'm not a micromanager. I really have to hire people that are reliable, self-driven, motivated, internally, have a passion of their own to work with the type of clientele that we have. And so a lot of that's sort of selfish in a way, is that I know my limitations as a manager. I'm not going to have really rigid FaceTime and, check the box. Did you do this? Did you do that? So I have to hire for that person. And that means people who you have to empower them, because I need people to be self-motivated doing their own thing. I do believe, though, that you can either hire people to be like in my practice and in a lot of law firms, but I think this is industry wide, really in any profession. Are you hiring people to be behind the scenes? They don't have a lot of exposure to your customers. They don't have a lot of exposure from a branding standpoint. They're not out giving the speeches. They're not going to conferences. Or do you want all of your employees, or at least a good majority of them, to be an extension of your business, an extension of your brand? That is going to impact how you build your company pretty substantially. So there are some in my industry, there are certainly larger law firms where I call it assembly line law, where they will know how to do a certain piece of a transaction, for example. And sometimes the partners don't want them to learn anything else, because then they're not a threat. They're not going to take the client. They're not going to leave the company and be a competitor. And I don't think that that's the right thing to do for people who work for me. And so I come in, I give them a lot of client contact and a lot of 360-degree viewpoint and education, so that they do know how to practice law in the area that we're practicing.
I give a speech one time about when you truly do want to scale your company up, you want to select certain people to be brand ambassadors. And these brand ambassadors really do have a drive to be in front, to be able to share a message, to be in alignment with the company. And I feel like that's a lot what you're talking about with some of your employees.
Absolutely. I mean, they're out in our community, right? So I am building this business, and most of our customers, our clients, are in the Tampa Bay region. So we have venture capital clients that, they're investing in companies throughout the state of Florida, but most of our business comes from my own community. So every time the employee is at a grocery store, out at a restaurant, communicating with the public, they are extending our brand. They have an opportunity to make an impact. And I want them engaged in the ecosystem of entrepreneurship in the greater Tampa Bay area and West Coast Florida, because our visibility is then extended through that engagement. I understand some people are introverted, and you need great drafting attorneys, and you need, people who do things more behind the scenes. So I certainly don't expect everyone to play that role, but I certainly want to empower them if they do. And a simple example is we do headshots. The moment they're hired, we do professional, brand new headshots, because I want them to feel confident, that they have a good image when they're creating their LinkedIn page, if they don't have one, when they are going to be speaking at an engagement. I want them to feel good about the headshot that they have.
Give us some other examples of how they're really an extension of the brand.
Well, I mean, if you, for example, I have a new young attorney that wants to go to a blockchain conference, because we have some blockchain clients there. We do work with a lot of technology businesses. And one of the reasons I hired him, he actually was doing like elder law, totally unrelated to what we do, but he was only out of school for a year. But he sent me a fairly long email when he was pitching me why I should hire him, and really expressing his interest in cryptocurrency and blockchain and this new industry, and that he's on his own time. Like you said, you're looking for the person who's not 9 to 5er, right? Not thinking that way. You want them living and breathing the industry, and of course they have to have a family life and go exercise and do other things. But you want their passion to be real and authentic, and that this would be a career that they're going to do, whether they do it at Hunter Business Law or anywhere else. And so he expressed an interest in going to a conference. Now it cost me money to send him. He's not billing time while he's going, but I'm like, of course I'm going to pay for you to go to this conference, because that's where he's excited about going. And then he's going to meet people and talk about our firm and talk about our interest in blockchain.
Sheryl, when you think about leading this unique group of people, what has had to change in the way you lead and connect with them to make sure that they have the confidence and courage to be out in front?
Well, I will tell you that I think it's a constant challenge. And we've had our share of turnover, and I would say I don't believe it's because in most cases this person was unhappy. I think it's more they've left to go in-house counsel. So I'm like, oh, I'm a really good training firm for somebody to go in-house counsel, which isn't that surprising, because we model our practice as being like an extension of a business, that we're like having an in-house counsel partner down the hall for you to come and talk to. So the attorneys that I've hired do get very good training to go on and then be in-house counsel for businesses. So it's not surprising that we've lost them, but I've recently had a lot of conversations, both with clients who I end up being friends with, and HR experts about the turnover. Generally, millennial turnover largely is, and I'm being told you're going to be lucky if the attorney stays with you for 3 years. And I'm thinking, wow, it's so different, because when I was, 25 years ago, I started off at a big firm, and it was, the track was 8 years. You're going to be considered for partnership. And then people had been at the firm for long periods of time. I'm now getting applicants where they've moved every 2, 3, 4 years. And you see this on the resume. And that really changes both the recruiting and the retention mentality. So I've been deep dive trying to think about, how do I recruit differently? How do I retain differently so I don't have turnover?
Sheryl just talked about turnover. Now, every company has some level of turnover. Some of this is voluntary, some of this is not so voluntary. And we want to make sure that we are tuned in to what causes turnover whenever it comes up. If you're having a retention problem, you want to make sure that you are looking at the employee experience. A few key factors inside of that is by asking your employees about, what you could do to serve them better, how you could be a better leader, and really create the kind of relationship between the two of you where it's not just you giving them feedback, but they're giving you feedback as well. You also want to create a place that's transparent, a place that people feel included, and all of this drives into it, my work about people feeling like owners. If people feel like owners, they really have to think twice or 3 times about leaving, because they're not going to get the same experience somewhere else. You have to be an intentional leader to create the kind of experience that keeps the best talent and attracts the best talent. If you're doing that, great. If you're not, make sure you check out some of the free content we have at genehammett.com. Back to Sheryl. Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us. A lot of it comes back to, the kind of experience people are having, the opportunities for growth. Yeah. And, it sounds like you really do believe in the cross-training and giving them a full, reach across clients and connecting, probably even bringing work in. Are your employees kind of bringing in new opportunities to the firm?
Some. I will tell you, we turn away a ton of work, which is why I'm hiring right now. We have a very full plate. The Tampa Bay area, if you're not familiar, is in a bit of a boom. We have a ton of people moving here from California, Boston, other parts of the country. I think COVID has sort of accelerated that. But it's part of it is that Florida, Miami in particular, but Tampa Bay as well, is turning into a tech hub. And it's much more affordable to live here, low taxes. We have more venture capital funds. I'm proud to represent 2 that are very active in this area. And so we're getting people who are moving to this area in droves, which is super exciting.
And you got some of the most incredible beaches in the world.
Well, we do. I can't say I go there a lot. We're trying to do a little retreat at the beach. So like, okay, what work can we do at the beach in the cabana that, we aren't doing here? But so for right now, I don't really need a lot of business development by my team, but they do have a ton of client contact. And it's equally important for attorneys in any business. There's 2 elements. One is bringing in the business. It's probably even more important to retain the business. And that requires the people on your team really treating the clients in a way that the clients are super happy, and they are staying with your company and they're not leaving. So I think it's important as an employer in a fast growth company to pay just as much attention to whether or not an employee can retain clients through excellent service as it is for them to bring in business.
One of the things we talked about before we cut the recorder on was about how this personal brand is an extension of your own personal brand. You're out into the marketplace, you're doing speeches, you're doing everything you can to position the law firm. But you're encouraging your employees to do this too. How do you lead them through those things when they get a little bit shy or they're not quite sure of themselves the way it's natural for this to happen? But how are you addressing that challenge?
Well, I think this goes back to a broader advice that I would give. And, I went through a program called Key Person of Influence. I don't know if you're familiar with Daniel Priestley, but he's also written a book called 24 Assets. He's from Australia and then did a lot of work in the UK and Singapore. So he's probably wider known in Europe, but they had a subsection of Key Person of Influence in Tampa. And it's really designed around developing your own brand. And I think that if you want someone to be more confident, going through the process of a program like this, even if you just read the book, can help. And I think listening to podcasts like what you're doing can help. People gain confidence through doing, right? And so if I had an employee who wrote a book or even a set of blogs on a certain area that they want to be an expert in, and they can walk into a room and they have that they've gone through that exercise, and then they feel more credible. They've created some credibility by developing things. So the Kpi program talks about having a perfect pitch, publishing content, creating products. So you're productizing, particularly in the service industry, raising your profile. So, it makes you more confident if you walk in a room and you have a great LinkedIn profile and somebody's, I'm going to connect with you. You don't want to feel like, oh God, I only have like 50 people on my LinkedIn and I don't think I updated it, for a year. So we try to make sure that they have all these things in order where they gain confidence, and also that they're able to articulate the mission and vision and the values of the firm. And that comes from mostly sitting in. I have them sit in on consult calls, client meetings, so that they really can hear me speak and can start to understand how we communicate with our clients in a unique way.
Sheryl, I want to switch a little bit here. I want to ask you this question I ask a lot of people. We joked about it just a few minutes ago, but have you made any mistakes as a leader? And if so, can you remember and share with us one that you feel comfortable opening up to everyone today?
Yeah. Well, and I'm still making mistakes as a leader. I am a very driven person, and I think a very basic mistake that I do think leads to stress in the environment. I don't really expect employees to work the insane hours that I work. I'm a night owl, so I'm up at 1 coming up with something. And my mistake is that I would email that at 1 a.m. or even at 7 p.m. And I realized that even if I would tell my employees that I'm not expecting them to respond, after the hours, certainly not 1 a.m, I think it creates a sense that they should be responding or they should be working those kind of hours that I'm working. And I think that creates almost like a chronic stress environment, and it can lead to burnout. So that I'm trying to work on, putting those on hold, sort of saving them and then auto send in the morning when they're supposed to be starting their day. So I'm trying to be more respectful of the emotional impact of the constant barrage of demands. So that would be one example. Another example was I had a very sharp paralegal who wanted to start a business. And I think she thought I'd be super excited about it. And I really probably should have been more excited for her, but I was frustrated because it was a business manager of mine who collaborated with her to start a business that was going to lead to them both leaving. And I was like, I hired you as a business manager to help me grow the company, and you're planning to start a business and take my paralegal. In hindsight, I wish I had just supported them, in doing that, and then been able to feed the pipeline behind them, knowing that they were probably going to leave, because it wasn't consistent with my love and encouragement for entrepreneurship. And so I wish I had kind of gotten behind them and just said, that's awesome. When do you think you might leave as a result of this, so that I can, plan ahead. So when I was talking about needing to take a different approach to recruiting and retention, I actually want to have very open conversations with people of, is this a stepping ground for you? And if it is, that's fine. But give me advance notice if you're going to be leaving. If this is something that you want to be doing, let's talk about it. I can help you, so that it doesn't become a shameful thing. And it's not a surprise to me when they say, I got a great opportunity, I'm going to go in 2 weeks, which is not good.
Now, hold on. Sheryl just talked about her insane hours. Now, I know a lot of people are driven. They want to work up until the midnight hour and beyond. Well, if you expect your employees to do the same, then you're creating a place where people can get burned out. It can be really tough to take. And how do they know this? Well, Sheryl talked about the emails that go out past midnight, and how she had to curb her approach to that. you have to also be intentional about some of the things you may be doing that make burnout a real problem. If you believe in insane hours, that's great. But are you expecting every one of your employees to burn the midnight oil and push beyond even the limits that you know is unhealthy for you? Well, all of that really will help you understand yourself as a leader when you get real about how you're showing up for your team. A lot of these blind spots we don't realize yet. So I'm putting a spotlight today on this because if you're pushing hard and you expect others to push as hard, or maybe you're just doing it not expecting they do, but there's an unwritten assumption that causes tension inside the workforce, then you want to make sure that you're aware of it. Back to Sheryl.
I totally know what you're talking about because I was just thinking about this the other day. My mom's 80. She just had a new hip, and or she's almost 80. She'd probably correct me if she was right here.
She would correct you. I still have a 7 in front of my name.
But I really get a chance to be there with her during this. And I knew that she was taken care of. And she mentioned about pensions and whatnot. And I'm like, I don't know what a pension would feel like. I've been an entrepreneur all my life. So I'm like,
right.
I know I create my world. And I was just thinking that it's just not normal for employees to be with a company for 10, 20, 30 years like it used to be. And I know this has been going on for a long time, but it just kind of hit me in this new, fresh moment of, and be mindful of that as you're bringing people in on the journey with you. Is this a stepping stone, or is this something that you really want to build a career out of? That's a really wise intention, I think, in the hiring process.
Yeah.
Sheryl, I appreciate you sharing openly with us about how you see the personal brand and people being an extension of this. And I appreciate you being on the podcast.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure, Jane. And keep doing what you're doing. It's great to have information out there to help people.
Well, I want to give you my take on today's interview with Sheryl, because I want you to understand what's really possible for you as a leader. When you bring on people behind the scenes, as she was talking about, we all need behind the scenes people. We have them in our company, but we also have people that are in front and center, that are serving clients, building their own personal brand, building their own way in the world. Our job is to clear the path for them, not to make it harder, but actually make it easier, give them chance to grow, because all of that growth can be energy putting back into the business. They may leave someday. This is the reality that we have to deal with, but we as leaders can create space for people to grow and for them to want to refer other candidates that would be amazing to come on, join us on this journey. So when you think about your journeys of leadership, if you're not sure what your next step is, you want to be a part of a community of other great, extraordinary leaders, we have Fast Growth Boardroom, which is filled with a lot of people from the Inc. 5000. You don't have to be on the Inc. 5000 to be there, but you do have to want to be a great leader and be hungry for growth. Just check out fastgrowthboardroom.com. When you think about growth, you think about leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, we encourage you to see you next time.